In considering unintentional killings, we're going to look at it a little differently from the way we viewed intentional killings. It's not necessary for us to start at murder 2 and work down to involuntary manslaughter in the way we started at murder 2 and worked down to voluntary manslaughter. Here's why. Sometimes prosecutors only charge with involuntary manslaughter. Sometimes a prosecutor charges depraved heart murder with a lesser charge of involuntary manslaughter thrown in. For us in this class, you have the freedom to consider the behavior and to start at involuntary manslaughter and work up to depraved heart murder if you see it, or you might start at murder 2, proving malice through depraved heart murder if you think the behavior is egregious, and then work down to involuntary manslaughter. Either direction is fine. While it's true that murder 2 under a theory of depraved heart and involuntary manslaughter under gross negligence are relative in degree to each other, they do have their own elements that must be satisfied. In this series of lectures, we're going to learn what each crime requires, and then we're going to examine fact patterns to see which crime is more likely to be it. Is the behavior grossly negligent for involuntary manslaughter, or should it be deemed depraved heart murder under a theory of malice for murder 2? To begin, let me present the definitions for both depraved heart murder and involuntary manslaughter. And by way of reminder, when I say depraved heart murder, that's really a shortcut for saying murder 2 with the mens rea of malice through depraved heart. As we know, depraved heart is one of the 4 mens rea that satisfy malice for murder 2. It's behavior that demonstrates a callous disregard for human life. Very few unintentional killings are so extreme in their behavior that defendants are charged with depraved heart murder or murder 2 with that kind of theory of malice. We need to see conduct that has no socially redeeming purpose and that it endangers human life needlessly. Our texting example of driving while texting and incurring a death wouldn't fall into the category of such extreme behavior as to warrant a charge of murder 2. But let me change that driving example, and now it's 90 miles an hour in a school zone while drunk and laughing as children are jumping out of the way. That would definitely be charged as murder 2 under a theory of depraved heart. Involuntary manslaughter is a similar crime, but the conduct is not as egregious. Involuntary manslaughter is an unintentional homicide that's committed without malice and with gross negligence. It's where a defendant knew or should have appreciated a substantial and unjustifiable risk of death or serious bodily harm. There are 2 key components in this definition. Did you hear them? First, was there a substantial risk of death or serious bodily harm? We're going to focus on substantial. And then secondly, was that risk unjustified? It's generally going to involve behavior that's often allowed in society, but was so badly executed.